Okay.
Okay, hello. Welcome to episode 434 of the Self-Help Podcast with me, Ed Lamb, and my good pal, Sean Orford. How are you, Sean?
I'm stunning and amazing. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, it's been an exciting week on planet Earth, or in here in the UK at least. Once again,
Yeah.
we love a good crisis in the UK, don't we? Or is it everywhere?
Well, we do at the moment. It seems to be one after another. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were gonna talk about pets actually, but we decided to do one on panic and kind of overcoming anxiety, kind of related to that said panic. So we'll
come back next week.
Yeah, pets can wait till next week.
Yeah.
Liveinthepresent.co.uk for all the show notes and links in the previous episodes as well. If you put your email address in the box, we'll send you some free meditation files and weekly alerts for the show. And yeah, just a reminder, you can get the show on YouTube now as well. We record these Zoom calls, and assuming that I'm looking half decent, which I don't know actually today, not so good really. It's been a long old day.
You're looking like you've experienced life.
Yeah, definitely. It's all go at the moment, but yeah, maybe just stick to the audio only. It's up to you. Anyway, what you been up to, Sean? Or how's life?
We've actually been away in Gino, our camper van, and stayed up in Danamere, which was very nice, very good.
So yeah, did it perform? Did you have a night away in it? Did you slept in it?
Yeah, we slept out. So, and it's kind of getting used to it and getting used to the different bits of it and bits that we need, and just remember to take that next time and all that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, does it kind of transform when it comes to bedtime into just?
Yeah, you can. The top pops, and you can have two beds up and two beds below. You know, like a double up, double down.
Oh, cool.
Lots of families stick the kids in the top and the parents down the bottom, kind of thing.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's good.
Very nice, man. I'm still yet to come and have a look, so I'll come around one of these weeks and we'll record face to face, and you can give us a proper tour.
Well, we could record from Gino the van, couldn't we?
We could, we will. Although, autumn is coming, hasn't it? The last few days, it's kind of the weather's snapped and it's gone cold all of a sudden. But hey ho.
Yeah. But if you're on a site on these things, you can plug into the electric and you have heating.
Okay. Very nice.
You can actually keep it warm. So people do stay out all year in them, apparently.
Okay, cool. Fascinating. All right. Well, we'll kind of segue into issues around fuel because and kind of the things that we rely on, because we had a bit of a scare on a bit of a non-event in the UK, which turned into what felt like the end of the world for a couple of days for some people, because we had a bit of a mini fuel crisis, didn't we? Which led to some quite fascinating scenes on the news. Yeah. Do you want to? Well, I think most of our listeners are in the UK, but do you want to let people know what's happening in case they haven't heard?
I think that it would be fair to say, and I know that because I do work around the world, that people are looking at the UK at the moment as like, oh my God, what are you doing, kind of thing. We chose to leave the European community, think it'd be good to go on our own, and it appears planned for it to happen. And seems to have been a lot of crises that have followed, which is like the fisheries, the lorry drivers, the people to work in our farms and fields and all that kind of stuff, which have created a whole load of crises that were then compounded with COVID.
Mm-hmm. Forgot about that one.
Yeah. So we had COVID and Brexit, and then we had the panic over toilet rolls and pasta, which seemed to go on forever. And now that's been superseded by a panic over fuel. So now lots of places in the country, all the garages, all the pumps are dry because there's no fuel to go in them, and everyone just panicked and gone around and drained it all out.
Yeah. So I mean, fuel can take many forms, but we're talking about liquid dinosaur juice, that horrible yucky stuff that we're supposed to not be using anymore anyway.
We're talking about diesel and petrol, aren't we?
Yeah.
And there's been crazy scenes. There was a picture up on one of the media things of a guy and he must have had a dozen jerry cans at the back of his car. He'd filled his car, and now he's filling up all these jerry cans to put in his boot. And it's like there are a lot of garages who are limiting the amount of fuel that you have to £30 worth, and you can't have more than £30 worth. But then people just going from one garage to another to get £30 worth of the car.
Yeah. It's I didn't know it's a laugh or cry, really. Just the day it started to kick off, or I was actually out in the morning, and I kind of noticed some weird goings on at one of our local petrol stations, and then by an hour later, like it seemed like all hell had broken loose, and there were quite long, lengthy queues. I went out to a meeting, obviously on two wheels, because that's how I try and get around. And went past this mad long queue of people trying to get into a petrol station, and came back 2 hours later, and it was even worse. So again, like I say, I just didn't know whether to laugh or cry. And it was kind of a strange kind of scene, really. And it was kind of, especially when you start seeing other more extreme cases on the news of people fighting over stuff and getting a bit of argy-bargy outside, you pushed in, all that kind of stuff. There was
somebody drew a knife on one of the forklifts and threatened someone else.
Crazy. There was were there any similarities there between like addictive behavior that you see? Like, because the people I saw that were queuing up, they kind of looked like addicts to me.
Well, my thing about addiction isn't, are you addicted, are you not addicted? My thing is, what are you addicted to? Because all of us have a normal, which is our chemical normal, which is created by what we do and the things that we have. And if we don't have those things, so we get a withdrawal feeling, then we have to do something to raise that level of chemistry back up in ourselves again. So we can be addicted to moaning, we can be addicted to traditional drugs, but we can also be addicted to things like the way that we get around. And it becomes that idea. I mean, that mad Edward who goes on and on about people riding on bikes. Well, Edward, you try riding a bike in the snow when you've got 4 kids on the back. It's like people will find all kinds of reasons to justify their behavior and what they do. But that maintains their addiction. So, I mean, people are addicted to, as far as I'm concerned, people are addicted to things like McDonald's. Mm-hmm. I see people who they can't have their Mackie D, and they're in a state of misery. And then they get their Mackie D, because I mean the same thing. There was a chicken shortage at one point, and then when the chicken came back, the queues outside McDonald's were just ridiculous. The drive-throughs, they just went on and on and on.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe the word addiction isn't right in this sense for the fuels, the petrol stuff. It's more of a dependency. So a lot of trips that we do, especially if you're a driver and a car does allow you to kind of extend, go great distances in an hour. It's crazy how far you can get in a car in an hour compared to on a bicycle or on foot, depending on where you are. But so it's more of a dependency than an addiction, isn't it? Really, I guess.
I'm not sure what the distinction is between the two, but I'll accept that.
I'm just trying to be polite, really, and polite, nice. Because I was wondering. I was chatting with some people online, some of my fellow cycling campaigners, and we're just all fascinated by what's going on, because we know that a huge amount of car trips done by people are like really short, like 1 to 2 miles. You could bike it, you could walk it in 20 minutes. So we know that, and yet people still were really concerned. But at the same time, I do know that I don't think that the scenes that we saw were irrational, because I think that in the minds of the people queuing for petrol, what they were doing was entirely rational. They were trying to have enough petrol in the tank so that they could go about their business for the next week or 2 weeks or however long they tend to, how much driving they do.
But what happens is, psychologically, is that people rationalize and justify their emotional situation. So like, it's perfectly reasonable for me to be fighting these people to get my fuel, because in 3 weeks' time I need to go to Honolulu in my car. It's like, and people will use the cognitive tool in their mind to justify their emotional need to have now. Yeah, and it's like when someone was walking out of Costco with a tower of toilet rolls on their trolley. Did they actually need those toilet rolls? If they had one pack, which would have been 40 toilet rolls, that would have lasted them a while, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, but we rationalize it, but we do that. People have done it throughout time. Hitler managed to rationalize the fact that it was okay to kill Jewish people. So millions of Jewish people were killed because they weren't human, were they? They were just animals, which meant that animals are okay to kill, but human beings aren't. Yeah, which then takes you into another whole world of like what we eat. The fact that we're going to be running out of turkeys for Christmas, there aren't going to be enough turkeys for Christmas, so we can all panic about that. Yeah. And then we can rationalize by saying, but we've always had a turkey for Christmas. I always have a turkey but actually maybe this year you don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not too wet. We do have turkey every Christmas, but I'm not too wedded to it. And in fact, I'm going on record. I don't think turkey's even that great, to be honest. I think it's a bit, I try my best to cook it perfectly every year, and it's always a bit dry, I think, and a bit. It's not the best meat in the world. So maybe we can live without turkey. I hope I haven't offended anyone too much there.
But you've just probably offended all the vegans and the vegetarians, and you've just offended all of the turkeyophiles who live for turkey. They're just living for turkey for Christmas.
Okay, well, just trying to get something constructive out of this one then, because you mentioned turkeys there, and we're already kind of projecting forward now to Christmas in the UK, and I'm sure there's various other things around the world saying that there might not be this Christmas, or the toys might not be delivered, or COVID might make a return to hospitals and kind of start to cripple that infrastructure again. Might not be able to see our families at Christmas. That kind of fear stuff is starting to set in. So what can we do to prepare, knowing that a crisis is probably around the corner of some kind for us, whether it be just something that affects us personally, or something on a kind of community-wide scale?
One thing that human beings have, although we're not always that good at using it effectively, is we have this wonderful, wonderful facility that a lot of other species don't have, which is we have creativity. We have the ability to create the solution to a problem. Creativity isn't necessarily about painting the Mona Lisa. Creativity is like, how do you change, solve, discover something? Yeah. So, okay, if you can't have turkey for Christmas, we can either all go and drink gin. Might not be any gin left, of course, and get depressed about the fact we can't have turkey for Christmas. Or we can go, okay, let's be creative. If we're not going to have turkey, what are we going to have? Let's do something else. Yeah. And that's where the human mind has this phenomenal capacity to do things if we allow it to, but we don't. We use our creative potential to imagine the worst scenarios. We live those in the present, and then we get anxious and panic. Yeah. If we can actually live in the present and not keep dragging some supposed future that may never happen into the present, then we've got a chance of living in the present in a fairly normal kind of way.
Yeah. And I guess it's also worth mentioning that we don't have to kind of let events take us by surprise, or rather events can take us by surprise, but we don't need to. We can be in a position to not panic because we're kind of prepared for it. And in the case of a fuel crisis, okay, maybe you do have a stash of fuel somewhere safe, in a jerry can, or somewhere, conscious that it's kind of a flammable, explosive liquid. So don't just leave it somewhere safe, but
keep it under the bed.
Yeah, maybe you should have a backup of somewhere, and we have a good amount of dried food that I keep. And I actually started doing that way back in the no deal Brexit days, when it was starting to look a little bit as if we might have trouble with food supplies. So since then, I've kept a supply of dried goods and tinned goods that could get us by for, I don't know, a month or two.
And how's your supply of toilet rolls going?
Toilet roll's not so good right now, actually, but yeah, I'm hoping I've got a bit of time to fix that one. But you know, I don't want to panic anyone by saying that, because you don't need to panic, because everything's okay. And if you kind of got the right mentality, you can and you plan ahead, then you'll be all right. You know, I know you've got a wood burning stove, which we do as well, actually, but there was some gas issues recently. So, are you like, can you heat yourself in the winter, or can you keep yourself warm with things? Should because I guess, without getting too dramatic, you know, starting to, I'm going to put a link to things like the fall of the Roman Empire and stuff. Sometimes things go wrong in societies, don't they? And
are you saying that the Roman Empire failed because they ran out of toilet rolls?
Yeah, and flour, and yeah, and maybe it was pizza dough. I don't know. But yeah, you can be ready for crises, can't you? Whether it's a massive, great big thing that affects millions of people, or it's something that affects just you and your family.
There's a difference between planning and panicking, you know, and anxiety. It's like if you plan and you know what's going on. So, okay, we know that there could be difficulties at Christmas, right? So now we need to plan, not panic. That means, it sounds to me, I don't eat turkey, so I don't know. But it sounds to me like there are going to be an amount of families that are not going to have their expected turkey. You know, now people are going to be thinking, well, not me, I'm going to get in there first and go and get a turkey. You know, so that's when you get the panic and people queuing up at the farm to go and kill a turkey. But the thing is, if you're not going to get a turkey and there's going to be an amount of people that aren't, what are you going to do instead? You know, it's that kind of human creativity. Actually come up with a solution. Don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution. How are we going to do it? Let's be positive. Yeah. And it is the same with the fuel issue. If we cannot use fossil fuels anymore, but we do need to stay warm and we do need to be mobile, how are we going to do it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's been possible. And you're saying very clearly from the research that you've done that human beings, that the average car ride is like a couple of miles, rather than people aren't going somewhere. And people used to and could walk out, or they could go on a bike, or they could whatever. You know, how many kids are overweight because they don't move their bodies? Whereas if kids did walk to school, maybe they would be fitter and healthier. Maybe that would take more pressure off the NHS in the future. But it's that kind of planning, creative mind that makes the world different. Mm-hmm. Not the, oh my God, I must have this now kind of thing. Yeah.
Do you think what percentage of people do you think, or of like society needs a crisis to get things moving, to enact change? Like, do you think we just need a kick up the backside every now and again, or do you think are we capable?
Well, we know pretty much that the only reason people change is either pain or awareness. Either they have the awareness to think, okay, I need to plan for this to be different, or we have to wait for it to become a crisis and then we do something about it. Right. So if you look at our governments, I'm not really interested in the politics or who they are, but if you look at the planning for Brexit, it's like it wasn't done through awareness. So what we've got to do now is, because we're in the pain phase, because things are going wrong, now we've got to do something about it. Whereas we could have done something about it in the past, you know, and so none of this would have happened. But here we are, you know.
Yeah, I mean, even with COVID itself, it came as a bit of a surprise, didn't it, to the world? Some countries or some places were better prepared than others. I'd probably say the UK was not. It took us by surprise quite a bit, and I think even there was a government department or something that was kind of shelved a few years ago, which would have helped enormously in terms of being ready for this, because it's they happen all the time, you know, throughout human history, don't they? On a kind of, if you zoom out on a timeline. So,
but it is a case of okay, what's the next crisis that's going to hit humanity? And I don't know whether that's going to be a resource, an illness, whether it's going to be a climate issue. We don't know. It's likely that as the planet gets hotter, that people are going to have to move away from the equatorial regions, from the equator, and move north and south, which means that we're going to have to shift over and make a bit of space for other people to come on in, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But like I think, like I said before we came on air, there's weird knock-on effects to that, aren't there? Which you get some weird politics. You'll get politicians that kind of try and prey on that situation, and you know, people not many people will like, or not many, a certain amount of people won't like them foreigners coming over here. You know, so my point is we're already seeing stuff like that, and like the fuel crisis of now is just a little drop in the ocean to like actual real fuel crises that will come in the next 5-10 years, something like that.
But so maybe this is a good kind of aperitif. You know, we're kind of learning about things if we're awake to it.
Yeah.
And we don't follow the pain route. If we do some awareness, okay, what does this mean? If there is going to be less fuel around, and the chances are that that's true, if we all go to electricity, we know that there isn't the power supply to actually power all the vehicles with electricity at the moment. There could be, if we plan it. But do we, you know, everybody buys an electric car and then there's no electricity to charge it with because we haven't got enough capacity to do it. You know, it's like the planning has to be in this, you know?
Indeed. So yeah, get planning. You know, everyone we all need to take responsibility for this stuff, don't we? As communities and as individuals, I guess. So I think, yeah, you talked earlier before we came on air about one of the important things. We talked about it more recently about finding it's important to find your community in times like this as well, and kind of
But think about any community that we live in, and if we shared cars, which people tried to do in the past, car sharing schemes, so rather than 4 people going in one car each, if 4 people went in one car, we would just save 75% of the fuel. Yep. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Yep. But it means we actually have to work together, talk to each other, communicate, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there are some car sharing schemes popping up. Well, you can share cars in London, like Zipcar, isn't it? But I think the plans are afoot, but whether we're going to be quick enough off the mark or not is remains to be seen. But hopefully we'll get there, and we'll get there one way or another, won't we? But we're just not sure where there is, maybe.
Yeah. And if we are in a situation where we run out of oil, you know, we have the creativity to create alternatives. You know, if we get to the point where everything that we do is toxic, we have the creativity to create non-toxic alternatives. But it's like, are we clever enough to actually use our creativity positively rather than using our creativity negatively? Yeah. And when you use creativity negatively, you create anxiety and panic. Because that's what it is. If someone imagines the light bulb in the future, and that's a creative act, and they pull it into the present, that's an amazing creative thing to do. But if someone imagines disaster and horrible and nasty things in the future, and they pull those into the present, that's a horrible anxiety and a nasty thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's the same part of the brain and the system, the same process. We're using our creative genius to create panic and anxiety and horrible feelings. Why do that? Crazy.
Very. All right. What's your resource of the week, Sean?
It is a book. It's called Rewire Your Anxious Brain. And it goes into neuroscience and talks about your brain and things that you can do to stop obsessing, being compulsive about things, and actually being able to let go of stuff. And it gives you some quite good, some good ways of doing things, but also explains how the brain works, which is. Okay. So I'll put a link up for that. It's good.
Brilliant. All right. I'll put that on the site. Mine is a link to a PDF called Getting Ready Together, which a writer I know published a few years ago, which talks about what you should have in place should the worst happen, like at a society level. So it's pretty fascinating in terms of the amount of like food that you should have put to one side and that kind of thing, and fuel as well, actually. So, and he's just started. He put it out a few years ago, and he's just kind of come back online, really, just to kind of emphasize like it's happening, all this stuff that I was talking about. So without wanting to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything, or too panicky, I think it's full of really good advice. So yeah, it's worth looking at.
Yep.
Good. Cool. All right, you happy?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Wicked. Yeah. All right. Well, normal service will be resumed next week, and we'll talk about pets and sort of nice like that. Hey.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, John.
Okay. You take care.
See you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
See ya.